Okay. Ready and go.
Hi, my name is Brandon Santos. It is June 7th, 2016, and I'm interviewing Mr. Richard Bertoli for the Field of Honor project, which is recognizing the significance of veteran service. So to start off, what war did you serve in?
I served in the Korean War.
And what branch of service
I
were
was
you
in the U.S. Army. I was in the 17th Infantry Regiment of the 7th Infantry Division.
And what was your rank?
Excuse me?
What was your rank?
My rank was corporal. I was an assistant platoon sergeant then.
Did you draft or were you enlisted?
They had the ability then of enlisting through the draft, where you're only enlisted for 2 years, and I elected to do that. I resigned my commission at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy in order to go into the Army.
Yeah. Did you think you would serve in the military when you were younger?
Yes. I think everybody in those days believed that they would serve in the military. Those were draft days. The country was different. And the draft, basically, in my view, was a good thing.
So what was the training like for your service?
Because of the quick need of manpower, you got basically a 90-day training. I did mine in Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania, which was mountainous and very good training for Korea. And it was good discipline. I didn't have a problem with it, having been in the Merchant Marine Academy for over a year in the officers training. That to me it wasn't much. But I guess for people who had no discipline whatsoever, it became a little bit of a struggle. But everybody was whipped into shape, and they knew what they were doing, and their training was good. After their training, they probably were overseas in 30 to 60 days.
So how long did you train for?
Excuse me?
How long did you train for?
90 days.
90 days. And did you develop any friendships while training?
Yes, you do. There are groups I would have loved to have gone overseas with. That we had a particularly very good group that in training we did very well against the opposition. And I never saw any of them again.
Was it difficult to leave your family behind?
Well, I wasn't married, so it really wasn't leaving family behind. I had been to college in California before the Merchant Marine Academy, and of course I was there for a year, so I was away from my family for over 2 years before going into service.
Where did you go to college?
Loyola, Los Angeles.
Okay. And where exactly did you go to serve? Korea, right?
Excuse me?
You went to Korea to serve?
Yeah, I went to Korea to serve. Well, basically I enlisted through New Jersey. I lived in New Jersey. And we went in through camp, not sure if it was Camp Kilmer, and then immediately to your training camps. It was an easy process. They handled it very well. And the training was good. It showed up overseas and how good the training was.
So after the training, where did you go?
After training, I went to Fort Lewis in Washington, and from Fort Lewis I shipped over to Korea.
Do you remember what it was like arriving at Korea for the first time?
It was it was interesting because we had a special type of regiment. A regimental commander welcomed all the new arrivals. They had just been wiped out the month before. During the period of time when I was there, it was commonplace for all of our units to wind up losing 50 to 60% in short periods of time. If you lasted 45 days as a rifleman, it was a long time. And the reason for that was the South Koreans did not want the war to end. They would have preferred continuing to fight and taking over North Korea. The Chinese really wanted to end it on their side because they were doing the fighting, not the North Koreans.
Yeah.
And their troops were good. So what would happen at the table would be there'd be an argument, disagreement over land, over all sorts of provisions. Chinese would walk away from the table, and the next thing that you know is some of the hills in what we call the Iron Triangle would get hit with regimental-sized Chinese. And we're defending hills with a company. So the casualties were always very heavy. And in those days, it was okay because we got all our casualties off the hills. And we got our dead off too.
So you got to experience combat.
At the end, they did not. They blew Pork Chop Hill. A lot of our dead still there. And they're still there to this day. And we can't get the bodies off.
So it was a very emotional experience.
I get a little emotional.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very understandable.
You hear the story of leave no man behind. It's not true.
So how much did experiencing combat influence your life? How much did experiencing combat influence your life?
It influenced how you had to take care of your body. But having a group of good guys, really good guys, you become very close, independent, and you know that if you got a problem, they're there. Without question. Last year we just buried a friend of mine in Arlington who was with us all through that time. And re-up, went in, he left as a lieutenant colonel, went to Vietnam as well. But people like him is what makes service good.
Did you carry any precious objects with you while at war? Things that made you remind you of home or things
Not really. I had a miniature camera that I took a lot of pictures with. Unfortunately, when I got wounded, camera disappeared. I've never seen the camera or any of the pictures I took with it. But that was it. Otherwise, you went in with the clothes on your back. And what you did is you got one shower a month, and they'd put you into a truck, and you go back on a dirt road, take a 15-minute shower, get back on the open truck, but you'd had clean dirt going back. So a lot of people don't understand some of the things that are over there. South Korea in those days was open farmland, and what they used for fertilizer, you don't want to put into the broadcast. But we had to drink the water that went through the streams that went through the rice paddies. So coming home, they put you on ships that lasted exactly 14 days because they had to give you 14 days of deworming pills. So there are little things that people forget about. And unfortunately, a lot of our politicians forget about a lot. Australia did a study on their Korean veterans. They have a higher cancer rate than the rest of the population. As a result of that, their Veterans Administration took care of it. They gave their information to Canada. Canada did the same study, came up with the same results. Canada's Veterans Administration is taking care of it. Canada asked the U.S. for information. They got zero. And they don't want to hear that the cancer rate of Korean veterans is higher than the general population. But you drink water from those rice paddies and see what happens.
So you feel as if there's not enough done for veterans now?
Well, we got hit with the politics of one having the first United Nations war, which really worked because every foreign government sent us a battalion, and they were good. They were really good. Now, they may have done some ugly things. The Turks, for example, would put heads on their jeeps, and they carried what they called earbags. When I was in the hospital in Japan, the Turks had just gotten hit, and when they all came up enough where they started thinking about their possessions and what have you, and found that the hospital threw all their airbags away, they practically tore the hospital down because they'd be ashamed to go home without having an airbag. There are things that are brutal in warfare, and the general public doesn't have a clue as to what goes on, and as to what's moral or what's not moral. As soldiers, we do one thing: we obey orders. We do whatever we're told, good, bad, or indifferent.
So what was your most memorable experience while at war?
It was after the war. When the truce was signed, I was on my way back from the hospital from Japan. I had talked them into sending me back. And we were pulled out as a rifle company, given PC carriers, put into a special battalion, with 2 recon companies, 1 tank company, and 1 AAA operation, so that if the truce didn't hold, they had a mobile battalion that could move any place, and that was us. With that, we we did a lot, and built probably the best battalion area that anybody ever had in North Korea, in South Korea as well. We had wooden floors on every tent, 2 electric lights in every tent. We had Quonset huts, beer hall. I lived in a Quonset hut. Officers lived in a Quonset hut. It was a paradise when we broke up the battalion and left, and an outfit from the 25th Infantry Division came walking in, battalion, walking in at attention, and all of a sudden they saw where they were walking into. All of their faces dropped. Their heads were moving from side to side as though, where was this paradise? 1.5 miles from the MLR. So it was different. General Patton's son was he was a battalion exec, and he was the commander of the tank company. I don't want to make any remarks about him because I can't say anything favorable about the man. But because of the history in the family, he wound up becoming a general. Cursed out all of his relatives going back through all the centuries because they were extremely wealthy, but all of the money in trust, and you had to serve full time to get your end. And he wanted his then and couldn't get it. So every night without fail, he'd be ranting and raving after having a few drinks about his relatives. That was a different time. The whole area was being rebuilt, and if you take a look at South Korea today, I have pictures of it wiped out, flattened. You look at it today, it's like Chicago. What they did with that country was unbelievable. And they take good care of us. To this day, more than U.S. people. You always get, thank you for your service.